Creon is a ruler of Thebes, and he is taking the throne over from his brother, who supposedly killed himself because he had a weird and an extremely disturbing relation with his wife and his mother. Now, throughout the play Antigone, Creon is portrayed as this horrendous villain who just seems to live on other people's destruction, and he is extremely selfish and he just doesn't want the betterment of anyone or his people and only cares about how he's portrayed. However, that's not true because the way Creon rules, he rules with a mindset which is aimed at solely benefiting Thebes. He wants to rule Thebes in such a manner that all other nations or lands fear him, and this might make him come off as a little ruthless. But again, if that is the case, then that means that the characters in the play are extremely delicate towards his attitude, especially Antigone, who just revolts and endlessly revolts against Creon without understanding that his motivations comply with the benefit of Thebes, towards the benefit of Thebes. Now the problem is Creon refuses to give a respectful burial to Antigone's brother Polynices. Now, the problem which arises with Polynices' burial, that it's arguable as to how much justice he truly deserves because even though he is familial blood, and for context, Antigone and Creon have an uncle niece relationship. Yeah, so even though Polynices is of familial blood, he did betray them by going and turning towards his own brother Eteocles, which is not justified. As in, like, okay, I understand that Eteocles might have been a little stubborn while giving up the throne, and it's a very stupid policy to have. When you alternate between one brother for each year, that's not the most efficient way of ruling. As in, the mindsets are obviously bound to clash. How does one ignore that? And when you're knowing that your brother has a throne, and you know how glamorous holding a throne can be, why are you uselessly risking it by counting on the fact that he, even though he's a brother, will give you the throne after 1 year, and will alternate. One at one point, it was bound to get one was bound to be carried away by the greed and lean towards possessing the throne, and that exactly happened, and that's why Creon, being the rational person he is, focuses on how Polynices does not deserve burial because Polynices failed to understand the very matter that Eteocles is bound to be driven by greed, and even the audience, hopefully, the audience understands. If not, it is because the way they portray Creon throughout the play is so biased. Sophocles is so biased with portraying Creon as this villain who's just so disastrous, so devastating, and he's just bound to kill everyone. That's not true. Even though and his policies, by the way, are extremely capitalistic and to an extent even autocratic. So he wants the nation to benefit, or he wants the land to benefit solely. He doesn't want any reliance on any other land. He wants everyone to benefit themselves, and that's the motive of self-dependency. And if Antigone fails to understand that, because it's her being the adolescent kid that she is, obviously she's not as mature as Creon to understand his own policies, his own method of ruling, and eventually she does, even though out of complete irrationality, she does make a decent point of how it might lead to chaos. However, before Creon could actually justify his policies, she goes and tends to just burst out the Creon. And obviously, Creon's not going to take some tone of disrespect uselessly by someone who's just attacking their policies. And especially for the time this play was written, that time the mindset of the people was such as too. So it's obviously understood that someone will be stubborn of their own policies, and Antigone should be respectful of that fact. However, she just decides to randomly burst out, just assault Creon of his policies, just shout at him, and he expects nothing but Polynesia's beauty at the end. That is very irrational. And obviously, Creon does assign her a punishment. He does, yeah, he does assign her a punishment, and he does hang her, which might be a little bit, might be a little too aggressive. However, the irrationality presented throughout by Antigone herself, even though this is not victim blaming, she was bound to get punished. Even though I agree that the punishment of hanging her was a little aggressive, a little over aggressive. Moreover, it's just that Antigone was not respectful of the fact that Creon respects his own policies. And of course, if one respects their own policies, they will not be affected by by someone just randomly attacking them and thinking it's a good idea, saying that, oh, I don't like your policy. I think I can do a better job. I'll shout at you. Let's see what you do. Obviously, there's going to be a revolt, right? That's a modern day politics as well. If you shout at one leader, obviously they're bound to revolt. They have their own set of policies. You might have your own ideologies which conflict with theirs, but that doesn't mean you're not respectful of the fact that they are stubborn of their own policies. And that's why I feel that the way Sophocles portrays Creon is so biased that it sort of creates a prejudice in the beginning of the play in the reader's mindset that Creon is the villain of the play, which is not true. If anything, I would gladly comply with Antigone being the villain of the play, even though the play is titled for her. Perhaps she's been portrayed as a sort of like a savior, as an attempted savior. She's not, in my opinion and in my viewpoint. And through her actions of how she treated Creon, it's clearly it's vivid that Creon rightfully did punish her, and by hanging her, perhaps shut her and people like and shut her up and made it clear that if you don't understand if one is stubborn of their own opinions, if you're not respectful of that, you're not going to help with the revolt unless you provide prove a point rather with decency and be respectful of both their opinions.